What you're about to see has been very, very difficult for me to open up about. A lot of you know that I have had a heart attack 7 months ago, but what a lot of you don't know about is what comes after the heart attack. Not just a physical rehabilitation, but coming back from it in here. This has been very hard for me to talk about, but I thought it was time to open up and let everyone know what to expect should you ever go through this, God forbid. And if you do, how I dealt with it, maybe that could help.
Hey, Saeed, thanks for joining me. You know, what I want this podcast to be about more than anything else is actually very similar to one of your titles on YouTube that you used for your video. And that's the one that grabbed me more than anything else. And it's "My heart attack saved my life." So listen, why don't we start outside by you telling me just a little bit about what happened and what's going on right now?
So, Carl, thank you so much. Yes, a heart attack did actually save my life. At the age of 38 years old in February 2019, I ended up having a heart attack, and I had no symptoms, no health concerns. Yeah, fine, I was a little bit chubby and a little bit fat, but there was nothing like crazy to worry about at all. And then one morning, dropping the kids off to school, on a 1-minute walk, I ended up stopping 3 times, out of breath, sweaty and all that. Went to the hospital to Northwick Park. They said, "Hey, you're fine, not a problem, go home." So I thought, all right, brilliant. It's either like really bad indigestion or really bad gas or something that, obviously I love eating, right? So I went home, had lunch, and next thing I know, 5 minutes later, boom, I'm on the floor, literally just about to die, And to be honest with you, just as a side note, they say that, when you're about to die or you're sort of experiencing something like that, your life flashes before your eyes. None of that was happening. The only thought in my mind was, I don't want to die at home, because I don't want the wife and kids to be traumatized, and I've just got to do something about it. But you feel so helpless. And that was it. Ambulance people came, took me straight into hospital, operated, and literally 3 hours on the operating table, I come out with 2 stents, diagnosed with a heart condition, with diabetes, pretty much everything, taking like about 15 tablets a day now, and it was just out of the blue, Carl. I mean, you don't expect this to happen, especially not at the age of 38.
38, and do you know what? Look, the focus of this podcast more than anything else, because like I mentioned, Said, a lot of the people that I'm dealing with, day in, day out, when it comes to anxiety, health anxiety, things like heart attacks, worrying about symptoms and all these things going on. What I want to do more than anything else is actually promote in this podcast what's happened since more than anything else. Because look, when it comes to, medication, medical conditions, it's very common, these things happen. But at the same time, what I want to be really focused on is what's happened since that. And, from what I'm seeing, Said, you've set up a channel. What's your focus now? Is it, what's been the journey since that's actually happened? What do you want to achieve from here?
To be honest with you, since the heart attack, straight after the heart attack, I actually did slip into depression because I wasn't expecting it. And to come out of that was very, very difficult. There's a few things that really sort of helped me come out of that. First and foremost, it was obviously my wife. I saw her sort of dealing with our 3 kids day in, day out, not going to work herself, and it kind of made me feel a bit guilty, And in addition to that, my kids as well, just the fact that my son came up to me and said, "Look, Dad, I told you not to smoke," and he's only 8 years old himself, So all of a sudden, it's something like clicked in my head, and I thought, okay, I've got to do something. Now, The other main thing that's really got me out of this is the fact that I've changed my entire lifestyle. Now, when I was growing up, I've always been very much into like videography, cinematography. For a good 5, 6 years, I've been a TV presenter and a show host as well, but I've never got behind the camera, which has been my true passion. So at that point, I decided, you know what, I'm going to start off a YouTube channel and I'm going to just simply document my journey from having a heart attack through recovery, you know, and just to sort of give as much advice as I can. So even if I can help one person, you know, avoid what I went through, that's going to be the main thing. Now, for me, that was a release of energy because, look, when you've gone through such a traumatic health concern, right, and such trauma, it's good, you know, that you can talk to your wife, to your friends, to your family, but they're so close to the situation that sometimes they don't actually get to see it. And rather than talking to them about it all the time, you see them worrying, and all of a sudden that makes you worry even more. And from the YouTube channel, what I've been able to find is that I've been able to express myself in a way that I've never really been able to previously. So any concerns that I've had or anything that I put out there, you know, I just get it out there onto the YouTube and just let people know about it. Because before, it was a case of like, I don't want to tell anyone I had a heart attack, I'm ill, because people think, oh my God, he's weak. And the generation that I've been brought up in is that, you know, even if you get anything's wrong with you, you got to man up and get on with it, right?
Was that part of the depression side? Was that?
You know, obviously after you'd gone through that, was that part of the depression, actually coming to terms with things, but also coming to terms with the fact that it was about the perception of being weak, being vulnerable?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you know, as a man, you got to be up there. You got to be, you're flawless, right? You're untouchable. You got to provide for the family no matter what. Perception-wise as well, yeah. I mean, look, I was fat. I was 118 kilograms when I had the heart attack. So
That's about what, 18 stone, something like that?
something like that, yeah. You know, it's definitely a big. I was a big boy, and straight away, the first thing going through my mind when I came out of the table was that, okay, people are going to turn around and say the same thing. We told you not to have so many doner kebabs. We told you about the burgers. We told you about the extra portion of chips. And I was like, holy crap, you know, I'm gonna have to deal with all of that as well. So that then obviously led to a lot of guilt that, okay, I knew what I was doing, but I should have stopped. I should have done something else. And then it took me away from sort of digesting the fact that, you know what, I have had a heart attack and it's time to really sort of wake up. And I think it took that slap of reality to get my backside into gear and to really do something about it. The first thing that I did as well, apart from the YouTube channel, is food. You know, food has always been, whether I've been happy, I've been sad, had an argument with a wife, been stressed at work, you know, dealing with people in my business. Food has always been a comfort for me, and I love food. I mean, really love it. So what I found is that radically and very quickly, I had to, I knew that, look, dieting and eating healthy is not an option anymore. It's a must. If I want to live, I have to do it. So because I didn't have any options, I had to get on with it. And the first week was really difficult because I would smell like my wife's cooking and I'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Walk past Chicken Cottage, you know, just peeking, you know, memories coming back. But that sort of forced me to change my thought process and my relationship with food, you know? So rather than food becoming my go-to for every happy occasion, I mean, I don't drink, I'm Muslim, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, you know? So food was my only outlet. Meet up with the boys, let's go get dinner. Do you know what I mean? So I then all of a sudden had to change it. So my go-to then became obviously the YouTube side of it, and walking, you know. Quite literally, I just put on the headphones and I just walk, you know.
So let's go back to that thing on food then, because
Yes.
look,
When it comes to self-help, if you like, and things connected to that, and a lot of self-help talks about forming new habits, you know, because as you've rightly pointed out, you know, it can, for a lot of people, be food, or there's other vices, other addictions. But where people also don't appreciate is with things like actual mindsets, like being addicted to worrying, you know, being addicted to feeling low, being addicted to certain behaviors, certain thought processes. So going back to that, what I'm interested to find out from you is in regards to time scale. So it's quite widely known that if you want to develop a new habit, a new way of thinking, it takes about 21 days for things to really start to take shape. Again, let's put this into practice. For you, coming from that addiction, if you like, because it's a kind of addiction to, as you were pointing out, it was food when you were happy, food when you were sad. It was food, and listen, I love a bit of food myself. It's a big part of our lives, right? And it's not necessarily something that I want to change overnight, but I also appreciate that there's a balance in that, like anything else. But with any addictions, any vices, with you with food, when did you start to, or has it started to get easier? What's been your journey with overcoming that?
Okay, so to start off with the last question that you had, has it got any easier? No, I don't think it ever does, because again, prime example, went on to holiday, and at that point I was on my absolute prime, right at the top, that looking at everything I'm eating and all that. One day, wasn't able to get the salads and stuff that I wanted, so then I ended up eating carbs. Then I guess you could say, yeah, I did relapse, and then 3 weeks after that, all I'm doing is still eating carbs. And all of a sudden, I thought to myself, holy crap, I'm back to where I started, and then it's another thing, you got to restart again. Look, I don't think, it actually gets any easier. I really don't. I just think that you learn how to manage it far more appropriately, when you've been so far extreme on in the eating side of things, right? And then you go to the other side where you've suddenly, lost from 118, you've come down to 81 kg like I did. You've suddenly had a taste of that lifestyle, and you feel good. Not only do you feel active, but mentally I felt alert. Like, to give you an example, I would go to sleep, for maybe 6, 7, 8 hours, and I would wake up tired. When I'm eating right, when I'm eating healthy, when I'm exercising, dude, I can sleep here for maybe 5 hours and I'll be up and alert straight away, jumping out of bed. There is no wrong side of bed, But then when you sort of do relapse or go off the tracks and you're a little bit naughty, all of a sudden you find that the next day that food that you've eaten has had an effect. Now, it's easy to say that, look, you know what, you've got to eat right all the time. Fine, yeah, we all know that. But I honestly believe as well that sometimes people need to experience it themselves, that they need to start on that healthy lifestyle and actually relapse and go down that road, to feel that, okay, look, you know what, I've done this and this is how I feel, because that's the only way that people like me would learn, In terms of 21 days to form a habit, yeah, 100%, The biggest, now I can't obviously speak for everyone, but the biggest problem with me was I always had an option of eating healthy, of being healthy, of exercising. The fact that I didn't have an option after this, it kind of set things in stone that if I want to live, this is what I have to do. If I want to die, I continue on the path that I'm doing. So I had no choice but to get it done. As far as was it easy in the timescales, no, it really wasn't easy. I mean, like I mentioned, the first week was probably the most difficult week ever. And I think I probably went down more into depression at that point, seeing everyone else eating rather than feeling excited about it. But very soon I found that, I think it was a good sort of 2 weeks into the whole process where I think my body chemistry started changing, I started normalizing, my thought processes started looking at the fact that, okay, you know what, I've got to find an alternative. I have to find a silver lining, otherwise, it's game over for me. That things started getting a bit easier. And then what I did is I sort of set myself little milestones, that, for example, if I went 2 hours without having a snack, then do you know what? I'll probably have like one piece of crisp, as a, yay, well done, just little milestones. And that sort of continued for a good month, and after about a month and a half of doing that in total, from when I decided I'm going to change my life, it's now become sort of second habit. It's become a habit where, without thinking about it, I look at something, read what's on it, and say, okay, you know what, I'm not going to eat this, put it aside, let's find an alternative. Yeah, okay, fine. I'd be an absolute liar if I said that there are times where I don't sneak in a quick, biryani or a doner kebab, of course, But at the same time, the one thing that has really, really helped me is, yes, I've got to be strict, I've got to be firm in what I'm doing, but I think that sometimes you do need to have that lack of strictness and principles, just that one time, just so you don't feel like that's it, life is over.
It's about balance side, isn't it? It is
Exactly.
about balance.
Because
The
where
I've
said it before that
you know,
food
has
always been
a big part of my life. I try
I
not
try
to
not to
have
have
too many other
vices.
vices.
I
I
smoked
smoked
for
for
15
15
years,
years, and I quit
and I
cold
quit
turkey,
cold turkey, and it was one of the hardest things I'd ever done.
And
And
drinking
I
I
keep
keep to
to as much of a minimum
as
as
I
as I possibly deem
So
fit
I'm
with that.
realistic
So
about
I'm
that as well.
realistic about that as well. And
When I was
compared
high,
to
deep
when
in
I was high,
anxiety, drinking a
deep
bottle
in
of wine a
anxiety,
night.
drinking a
Yeah.
bottle of wine a
Going from
night.
that to
Going from
maybe
that
having
to
one or two glasses
maybe
a week
having
now.
one or two
It's a
glasses a
severe
week
cut down.
now.
Yeah.
But
It's a
when we're
severe
looking
cut
at
down. But
balance of things,
when we're looking at
I've always said,
balance of
Saeed,
things,
and I don't mind
I've always
saying
said,
this
Saeed, that
as well,
and I
when it
don't mind
comes to
saying
food
this
and
as well, that
enjoying
when it
food,
comes to
because
food
I'm
and
quite
enjoying
creative with it as
food,
well. I quite
because
like
I'm
to
quite
cook
creative
and
with it
enjoy
as well. I
that.
quite like to cook
And if
and
it wasn't for the
enjoy
fact
that.
that I balanced it out
And if it
with
wasn't for the fact that I balanced it out
daily
with
exercise, and I make sure that I do
daily exercise, and
least
I make
once a
sure that I
day,
do
I'd be the size of a
exercise
small
at
house.
least once a
Because
day, I'd
you've
be the
got to
size of a small
balance
house.
this stuff
Because
out.
you've got
But
to
you've also got to be
balance
true
this
to
stuff
yourself. You've got to
out,
be realistic
but
about
you've also
things
got
as
to be
well.
true
That
to
if you
yourself.
are
You've got to be
passionate about
realistic
food,
about
if you
things as
enjoy
well. That
eating,
if you are
then
passionate about
it
food, if
is
you
the
enjoy
answer
eating,
to
then
think that you can
it
go on
is the
a
answer
rabbit diet
to
Yeah.
and
think
be
that you can go
comfortable
on
with that, and everything's
a
going to be
rabbit
okay.
diet
Of course, it's not
and
going to
be
happen like
comfortable
that.
with that,
There's
and
going to be
everything's
a
going to be
relapse.
okay. Of
Yeah.
course,
Things are going to
it's not going
happen
to
with
happen
that.
like
So
that. There's going to be a relapse, and things are going to happen with that. So,
it's ultimately about getting that balance.
I think you're absolutely right. It's about being realistic with your expectations as well, I mean, look, to be honest with you, I set really high goals. You know what, I'm going to get down to 70 kg, I'm going to be proper Arnold Schwarzenegger, and, I was on it. But then all of a sudden, when those goals weren't being achieved, it really pushes you back, and then I realized, okay, like you said, be real about it, realistically, I haven't had a heart attack, how much can I actually do? And within that, do the best that you can.
Well, maybe that was part of your depression as well, Saeed.
because previously to that, because again, what I'm hearing from you is perfectionism. Or at the very least, high standards, right? And when we're chasing these high standards, we're chasing this perfectionism, we're chasing something that doesn't exist. And if something comes along that really shakes that up, like it obviously did with you in regards to this health scare, then it's a whole shake up of your whole persona. It got you questioning about who you were. And the depression, or the depression that can come from that is this message that we're saying to ourselves, I thought I was that person. I thought I could do this. I thought I could do that. And nobody's Superman, right? So nobody's Superman.
Yeah, no, of course they're not, and I think you're right, when the wind did get knocked out of my cells, yeah, it sort of gave me a sense of mortality, that okay, I am human, that there is such a thing as work-life balance, and it really puts things into perspective without a doubt. And
I want to cover a few more of those things with you, actually, because
without a doubt, anybody listening to this, when it comes to health, the obvious connotations that are going to come with that are eating healthier, exercising, and and it sounds like you've gone through that, and you've obviously gone through what you've gone through and come out of that. Now you've lost a load of weight by the sounds of it. Your exercise regime, I'm assuming, is much more regular and better. Your diet is much better. But what I also want to cover off with you is the mindset side of it as well, Saeed, because one of the big things that I talk about, especially when it comes to anxiety, is the more social anxiety side of things, and how we get very het up about what other people are thinking, about what they might be thinking. And you mentioned this earlier as well, part of the depression was that, you thought that people might perceive you to be weak or vulnerable. And it's this whole picture of what people might be thinking, right? Now, previous to your heart attack, what have been some of your mindset liberations, if you've had any? And what I mean by that is particularly when it comes to worrying as much about what people think and how much that might have affected you previously. Does it affect you as much today, having gone through that experience?
No. Now, look, you got to forgive me, Carl, if I sound politically incorrect, okay? But I promise you that I'm going to be open and honest about, my responses to you. Look, I'm a Muslim. I've been brought up in a very cultural aspect, okay? Being a British Asian, I hold my religion dearly, I hold my culture dearly, but within our culture, perception is everything. If you have depression, you're looked down upon. If you, for example, have a trendy haircut, oh my God, such a bad boy, So there's a lot of stigma attached to it. I'd always live my life according to that cultural perception. Okay, I can't do this because my mom and dad might think this. I shouldn't do that because this person in the community would think that. One thing the heart attack did tell me, and the way that I live my life now, is I don't give a damn. Okay, at the end of the day, it's my life. I'm the one that's going to die and answer to that man upstairs for everything that I've done. Okay, so why do I? And this was a realization that hit me, and it took a heart attack for me to realize this. Like, seriously, that at the end of the day, okay, it's my life. Every mistake that I make, it's my mistakes. I should own them and I learn from them. Every highs that I have, everything that I've achieved, my business, my car, my house, my wife, because I've achieved it. Mr. Joe Bloggs from down the road here has done nothing to help me about that. So why am I so concerned about him? That thought popped into my head, and I know that many people may agree, may disagree, but that's subjective, right? That really set me free, honestly. When it does come to perception, especially part of the depression, my friends, okay, they were streaming into the hospital to see me. They were streaming at home when I got home, and I would just stay in my bed. I'd be like, I cannot be bothered to speak to them, cannot be bothered to see them. And a little bit of paranoia kind of set in as well. Are they here just to ridicule me? Are they here just to take the mix, saying, well, I told you so, right? And I found that was like a rabbit hole. It just pulls you in. But then it was my wife that actually said to me, she goes, okay, if you do think that they're here to talk to you about that, don't you think you should go down and face them and find out once and for all if you're right or if you're wrong? Face up to your fears. And when she said face up to your fears, it kind of hit me that I'm actually scared. I'm scared of what I think about me. Okay, and at that point, as God is my witness, a realization set in. I don't know who I am. I've always been the person that somebody has always wanted me to be, but who am I? And that was basically like, excuse the term, right, sound really cheesy, but it was like a phoenix from the ashes, right? Where I was like, okay, I can be whoever I want to be. I can think whatever I want to think. I can do whatever I want to do. And that was basically the start of my self-discovery, to not become the same old person that I was, but to become a new me. And that, to me, it may sound a bit geeky, nerdy, but I found that so exciting, like really exciting, that the fact that, you know what, I don't have to be a fat boy anymore. I can be slim, I can be trendy, I can go out there, get the haircut, I can go out and do whatever I want. And I think the one thing that I did do is, in our culture, tattoos are a little bit like, considered bad. I went out there and I got the biggest tattoo that I could find right on my left arm. Why? Because that was me. I could do what I wanted to. And every time I look at that now, it sort of reminds me that, look, you know what? This is where you were, this is where you are now, this is where you can get to. And it's up to me to make sure that I get there.
And listen, I hear you. I mean, the reason I mentioned this in the first place, Saeed, is because, I wrote a whole book on it called You Care Too Much. And, the clues in the title. And, I went through, a similar phase mentally in the, I came to some particular realizations about how, when I started to look into it, how much we dedicate our time, energy, focus, whatever you want to call it, into caring too much about what people think. And look, again, this is where it comes down to balance, of course, because the balance is that we're not about to stroll down to the supermarket in our underpants, with music blaring, chewing gum, and, saying, and what to people, right? I mean, again, it's not about living our lives like that either. But when we truly start to appreciate, and for you, it took a bloody heart attack. Yeah, this is what I'm getting to. It took a bloody heart attack for that to happen for you. For me, it took over a decade of crippling anxiety of buying things to impress people that some of the people, I didn't even associate with that much. Would I've even gone out with them, and socialized? Not a lot of them I wouldn't, but I was still trying to impress them, buying things to impress other people, doing things, acting in a way that was there to impress other people, which is what you've been estimating to in regards to us building this persona. And what's most interesting about that persona in particular is how the fear of change can keep us trapped in certain patterns of behaviors or thoughts or actions that actually are doing us no good as well. Because we want to feel like we're part of something. We want to feel like we're inclusive. So it's like they recognize me as that person, so I have to fulfill that.
Yeah, 100%. And look, to be honest with you, okay, when this change does happen, you will find, and this is what I find, this is what my journey was like, where a lot of people that I considered to be close friends and close to me didn't like the new person that I was. And all of a sudden they went, and I realized, okay, maybe those were the people that were, I don't like to use the word holding me back, but weighing me down in a sense where I felt burdened by their expectations, and now that I've actually reduced my group of friends considerably, and it's so much better. Do you know what I mean? It's honestly much better because I get...
Better in what way? Better in what way?
The quality of time that I'm spending with the lower number of friends that I have is far more quality. It is absolute quality, rather than having to talk to different people about different things, be different people to different people, I could just find that I am myself, those people, they know the good things, the bad things about me, and I find that I find that I'm not pretending anymore. And I think that's the main thing.
It's getting rid of the pretense.
Yes.
And being able to be more real, right?
Yeah, 100%, just to be yourself. There you have it, guys. Everything out there in the open. I mean, look, it's easy to live our life with the expectations and demands of others. But what's the point in living a life when you can't meet your own expectations and your own demands? You do come first. Don't wait for a heart attack or another scare for you to get to that point where you start taking care of yourself. Learn from others around you. Learn from me. Learn from what I've been through. And just don't make that same mistake. Look after yourself. Look after your family. And only cherish the things that are really important to you. Somebody once told me, there's no point worrying about things that you can't control. So why do we worry? It's as simple as that. Yeah, okay, fine. It's not as simple as that, it's easier said than done. But putting it into practice takes time, it takes effort, and it takes courage.